Good morning, everybody. I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to each and every one of you for joining us here today at the Can Do Innovation Summit 21 session, Circular Economy, Regenerative Growth for Business. We're going to work through what the circular economy means for business and how it can enable us to work more efficiently with materials in our world to help tackle climate change. From a business perspective, it is fundamentally good for business. It's all about driving innovation and at the same time reducing costs and increasing customer satisfaction and indeed retention. Applying the principles of circular economy throughout your business can also unlock new revenue streams, ensure resilience and help to drive systemic change. We hope that you're going to come away from this session understanding the principles of the circular economy, what that might mean for your business, and more importantly, how you can get started. Here at Glasgow Chamber of Commerce, alongside our partners, Zero Waste Scotland, Glasgow City Council, Circular Economy in the Netherlands, and Insight Futures, we've now been working with our members for about 5 years on this whole agenda around the opportunities for a circular Glasgow. We've had considerable global interest in what we've been doing, and with COP26 being delivered in the city later this year, the interest level has surged considerably as we revisit the climate crisis that we are facing before we found ourselves in this global pandemic. Now, we would like to get you all involved in this conversation this morning, so please take notes of your questions as we go through the panel session, and then come and join us over in the open question and answer session, which you'll see underneath this session on the platform. So let's get started. I'm very delighted to say that we've got guests here this morning from Amsterdam and across Scotland to contribute to this session this morning. So first of all, we've got Gabriela Medero, who's the co-founder of Kenoteq. She's spent over 10 years developing the K-brick. It's substantially reducing environmental impact of the construction industry by groundbreaking design and its locally produced production processes. We also have Blair, who's the sector manager from Zero Waste Scotland. With Zero Waste Scotland being a founding partner of Circular Glasgow, the Chamber team works closely with Laura and her extended team at Zero Waste Scotland in our combined efforts to create a more circular economy. I'd also like to welcome Michell van Dooijeweerd, apologies Michell, Sustainability Coordinator at the Revolution Foundation and producer of one of the world's most circular events, the Digital Festival. Now, with Glasgow being home to the globally renowned SEC and the city's award-winning event status, there are already discussions underway here about how our own events here are progressing in this space. And last, but by no means least, we have Hatty Cooper, who's Director of Programmes from the Circular Economy in the Netherlands. Hatty leads Circular Economy's thematic and sector force portfolio around textiles, construction and finance. So welcome to all our panellists this morning and thank you for joining us. Now, I think to give the audience a good feel of what we're going to talk about today, I think given the level of knowledge will be very different for most individuals, I'd like to come to Hatty first. And Hatty, I'd like for you to just explain a little bit about what actually a circular economy is and how you are talking about it in the business that you're undertaking, please.
Well, thank you, Alison, and good morning, everybody. So quite simply, a circular economy designs out waste and pollution. It keeps products and materials in use, and it regenerates our natural ecosystems. But of course, why is this important? Well, material extraction has fueled economic growth since the Industrial Revolution, leading us today to a world that is 1 degree warmer, and where humanity has surpassed the use of 100 billion tons of materials annually, of which only 8.6% are cycled back into the economy. So this is the result of our current economy, our linear economy. And this take, make, waste model in which we extract resources, we refine and produce and process them to produce goods, which we will consume and then eventually discard, is pushing our planet to its natural limits, contributing to our environmental challenges such as climate change and biodiversity loss, and of course producing vast amounts of waste that are polluting our land, our seas and our soil. This also locks us into a critical dependence on increasingly scarce and finite resources. But then, of course, we have the circular economy. This is not a new concept, it's really been around since the 70s, but we have now at Circular Economy condensed it into 7 key elements. So really the circular economy prioritizes regenerative resources. It preserves what has already been in use. We use waste as a raw material, and we rethink business models. We design products to last. We incorporate technology into technology to track and optimize the use of resources. And crucially, we collaborate across value chains, across borders, and across business. So really, to conclude on this, the circular economy aims to grow prosperity while operating within the bounds of our finite planet by making efficient and effective use of the resources that we already have. This, in turn, as Alison said, creates a resilient economy that is regenerative by design, benefiting both people and the planet. Back to you, Alison.
That's really great. Thank you for setting that up, Hatty. So the focus, obviously, of this summit is around about innovation. So Laura, I'd like to come to you next and ask you a little bit about, could you explain some of the main benefits that you're seeing and learnings from businesses who are looking to adopt more circular strategies and where you're seeing innovation coming through in that?
Absolutely. I mean, there are so many business benefits to adopting a circular economy, and I think that's really what we're starting to see come through. You know, for business, it generates new business, you know, but new business models, new products, new services all help to open up new markets. We're also seeing organizations starting to gain a bit of a competitive edge by doing something that is really innovative. People want to change. A lot of people want to change the products they're buying. They want to change the way that they are buying products. Could they buy services instead? You know, we're starting to see this come through. So businesses that are starting to adopt these models do have that new customer base that they can move into, which is quite exciting. It also helps to retain so customer loyalty can be improved by offering services such as refurbishment, repair. I mentioned product as a service. You know, for these customers are looking to their suppliers for ongoing support and maintenance, and that actually helps businesses as well to stay close to their market and understand their evolving needs, which means that they can potentially adapt more, you know, as their needs change later down the road as well. But it also provides businesses with stability. You know, it can help to insulate business pressures against fluctuations in resource prices and fluctuations in resource availability. And that combined with a reduced need to buy, materials for production, a reduced need for waste management costs, we're seeing sort of higher levels of return, reduced risk, and overall business resilience. But it's really those earlier kind of stages that you're starting to see the innovation is about those new markets, new products, and what customers need, and really innovative ways of trying to address these issues. Thank you.
That's great, Laura. Thanks very much. Now, of course, today we're very fortunate to have two cracking examples of businesses who are absolutely embedded in all of this process and actually delivering practical results as well. So I'd like to come to Gabby first. Gabby, the work you've been doing, which is indeed pioneering, and our eyes certainly absolutely lit up when we heard what you were doing. And I know it's been a long journey for you. It's been 10 years you've been working in this. Now, the construction industry is one sector which is really starting to embrace circular innovation, but obviously it's a long journey in doing anything in the construction space. Can you tell us a little bit more about K-Brick and what's your vision behind it, and what made you come to the table with this concept?
Absolutely, Alison. Thank you. So good morning, everyone. And yes, construction industry has the tradition of being very conservative, actually, but it's really good to see that they are open and they're starting the change, as you said. But the whole rationale before the concept of the K-Brick, it was the fact that it started bothering me that we exploit so much raw materials, very valuable materials like gravel, sand, clay, that they will finish. And so far we have been taking this from the ground and not taking consideration that we'll have problems in the near future, if not us, the next generations, because we're not gonna have that materials. At the same time, in parallel to that, it grew my concerns of how much waste as a sector construction produces. It's the largest producer of waste. And the problem with all that is waste that potentially could be reused, because if we look construction demolition waste, all that inert waste that is concrete, that has gravel, has sand, and plasterboard, all these materials, they could potentially be reused after recycle. So with that in mind, the K-Brick was developed with the concept of taking waste from construction demolition, recycling that waste, going to manufacture and going back to site, because then we add value for a waste that otherwise could end up in a landfill or have a very limited use as a filler of a road, that it has no value and it has limited application. So we work in adding value to this waste as a recycled material, and this is the feedstock for making the K-brick that goes back to market. So we have this idea of the circular economy through our process of developing the K-brick.
Yeah, it is really exciting, I have to say, and just the fact that so much of it's locally produced and sourced as well. It is just exactly what the circular economy is all about, demonstrating real innovation as you're doing so. Super example. Now, Michell, well, let's go to Amsterdam now. So you guys are running the digital festival, and indeed it's a circular festival. So that could mean lots of things to lots of people. Could you just explain a little bit from your perspective what exactly a circular festival is?
Yeah, thank you for being here, and I can explain what a circular festival is, because yes, it's kind of a hard definition. But what we do, we have like different systems, like food, like energy, like mobility, resources, and for all those different systems, we have different goals to achieve to become circular. And for example, for energy is that we run the festival complete on renewable energy, and for resource that we keep all the materials in the cycle at the highest possible value. And for mobility is that we don't have any greenhouse gas emissions anymore with our travel and our suppliers, with our visitors travel and our suppliers. And for food, we try to minimize or prevent food waste, and we limit the use of animal products, and then we try to avoid and use products that otherwise would be thrown away. For example, we like to use rescued food, and by doing that, definitely for food, it's really hard to have a definition for a circular food system, because everybody is struggling with that. But if you have all those systems with those goals achieved, then we think you have a circular festival. But we have designed, what we try to do is to bring all the materials in a cycle, in a visual chart for a material flow analysis, and then we have segmented all the different systems, and then we can try to reduce all those material loops and close all the material loops, and make that visualize it for all the visitors.
Thank you, Michell. So I understand a lot of what you're talking about in terms of material flow systems and so on and so forth. But if I was a business in the room and I wanted to, I'm excited by the idea because I've heard a lot about it. I've been inspired by a number of different brands, whether it's Mud Jeans, whether it's the Scottish Leather Group here in Glasgow, just as two examples. How do I start? What is it people in the audience could take away as how do we begin the journey? Where do we actually even start?
Yeah. So what we do is we try to we see our festivals and our events as a living lab for circular innovation, and especially for urban environments. And if you have like a cool innovation and it's hard to go directly into the city or into the big events, maybe it's good to first test it at events, so you can optimize it and you can see, okay, how is everybody reacting on it. And next to that, we define boundaries. We have like really good boundaries for our festival that are similar with cities. So as a result, we from 2017, we started to map out our material waste flows, as I just said, and the transition from the waste management to resource management. And we prioritize impact hotspots for the future editions. And I think because we are using this data, we are able to answer some key questions about where the festival should focus on in order to achieve a circular state and continue to have some good efforts on the festival. So I think it's really good to have a baseline measurement and collect all the data from everything that's happening in your company or at the product you are making, and then from that you have to visualize that, and then you can make it better and optimize the systems to make it circular.
Thank you. Now, Laura, from your experience of working with various businesses and the organisation of Zero Waste Scotland, working across Glasgow in particular, and also the other cities that are working on this agenda, what are you doing to help inform businesses and educate them on why they should actually act on this? Because it all feels really nice. You know, we're going to do something about climate change. Michell's giving a steer here about let's get a baseline. How does a business go about getting a baseline, and what can you do as Zero Waste Scotland to help support that process?
Yeah, thanks. It's a great question. It's obviously getting the message out is really important, and helping businesses to understand these benefits and to help get them started. And Zero Waste Scotland works with a number of different projects and partners to really try and help get that message out, you know, get that education piece going. Obviously, you mentioned Circular Glasgow, as well as some of the other projects we have going, which include Circular Edinburgh, Circular Tayside, Circular North East, and we also now have a project in the Highlands and Islands in partnership with Highlands and Islands Enterprise, which are really about getting out to businesses and really engaging with them on what the circular economy is, what it means to them, and what the business benefits actually are. So these are great sort of local, regional, place-based approach to the circular economy, really helping to build that momentum locally, helping businesses to make connections, make collaborations, and really make the most of the resource and population kind of density and proximity that you have within these areas. And Zero Waste Scotland also does work directly with businesses. We provide innovation workshops where we engage with businesses to help them understand what the circular economy is and to take them through kind of what the next steps are for their business to actually, you know, transition maybe their existing products or transition to a new business model. We also then have support mechanisms available to then help them take their first steps. So there's the Circular Economy Business Support Service that we've had running for a number of years, where organisations can access tailored one-to-one consultancy support to help them with the design and development and even implementation of some of these new products, services and business models. And we have the Circular Economy Investment Fund, which is also available to SMEs. Those projects need to be well advanced along the development pathway and demonstrate that they can achieve significant carbon benefit and sort of have a good connection to the circular economy. So we're there sort of helping educate businesses right from the very beginning, taking their first steps, you know, what is the circular economy and what are the benefits, right through to helping them with some of that implementation activity.
Great, that's really helpful. I'm sure those that are interested in actually taking a first step will find that very helpful. Now, Gabby, if we come to you and look at the construction sector particularly, I mean, sites like Park 2020 at Schiphol Airport and Amy Amro's Circle building and so on and so forth have been quite iconic in terms of demonstrating what new builds can do in terms of circular economy and circular construction. And then, of course, in Scotland here, we have one of our innovation hubs, which is the Construction Scotland Innovation Centre, and it's been doing a lot of pioneering work. So there's some really good examples of trailblazing activity that's happening. But do you have some other examples that you're starting to see through your own work? And what do you think will create a tipping point for both refurbishing existing buildings and actually new build aspirations to become more circular?
That's a very good question. Actually, we work very close with Construction Scotland Innovation Centre, and they have been great support on that. And I think there is a growing understanding in the construction sector that there is a need. And this comes, and for us it's clear that the most we talk about circular economy and how to approach this in construction, how this can be doable in construction, people in construction are getting excited finally because they know the need. And the need comes from, I think, examples that we can look here, it comes even from the beginning, is the resource efficiency side of things. People are realizing in construction that we have a problem here, that we, K-Brick, we are competing with fire clay bricks. There is a problem now of extraction of clay, where we can take, so the examples come now that people are looking alternatives to stop using natural resources that are going to finish and are finishing, and we're having problems there, and looking for alternatives. And this is coming in many different sectors, and people are, so there is a big now movement of looking for alternatives and suitable ways of instead of using the virgin material there as the main supply, the feedstock in construction, to start looking, can we use recycled material? And this recycled material can be coming from construction demolition, but can be coming from other sectors too. And this is a growing thing, and we see more and more companies, and with our partnership with the Innovation Center, we see, and it's very good time that people are applying and working on that. And at the moment, you see now for COP26, the Innovation Center is putting a lot of effort to showcase these examples in the Innovation Center. We're going to have there, where it's still secret what we're going to have there. We're going to be building something there, but it's not only us, it's across Scotland, businesses that have been working hard to look their processes, because that's the other question that is linked on that. What people have been doing and what people need to do in the construction is to be looking at their processes, the materials that they use, and reassess and look with different eyes. It doesn't mean because it's working, and okay, in construction, many things have been working for hundreds of years, it's fine, but there are better ways to do the same thing, reducing the carbon emissions, potentially also reducing the energy demanded for that process, being more conscious in terms of the materials used and how we exploit there. And very important, because in this whole process is how much waste to generate, because we need to also be conscious that we need to reduce waste. This we want the circular economy approach more and more, but if more people reduce waste, will be better, because there are so much there available that it's available and is not used, that we need to think, and we need to think in a positive way that adopting these materials, you potentially could be storing waste that otherwise would end up in a landfill, and you're storing this in a useful material for construction. So in construction is the process, is the materials, is reassessing this, and I'm very glad to see that this is more and more happening. But I think the key thing for business is to approach all their process line that many times, like Hatty said, is a linear process, and assess each stage. And sometimes there are ways of changing things, and we have done even small circular economies within our big process, our approach. When you reassess what you're doing, where the material is coming from, who is the supplier, why is that supplier, the logistic, is that the best supplier? We need to start thinking local. Can we reduce also carbon emissions if we take from our neighbor instead of something? So there are small things that can make a massive difference. And in construction, because the volumes are so big in whatever we talk, this can have a large impact. So hopefully more and more construction industry is going to be helping us to have a more sustainable world and go towards the targets of a net zero business and economy.
Great. Well, Hatty, I'd like to come to you now with your experience around the built environment and finance. Clearly, the finance investors are a key player in all of this, and particularly with regards to construction. Now, some time ago, we did do some work with patient capital and looking into what does that mean for construction and potential investment in Glasgow. Can you share a little bit about what you're seeing in terms of changing dynamics, particularly within the investor community, in terms of investing in new designs, new thought processes for businesses, new business models, and particularly in construction?
Yeah, of course. So here, of course, in the Netherlands, really we're a front runner in the race to circularity, and we're seeing a huge momentum, both from the investor community, but also we're doing a lot of work with the National Bureau of Accountants, and also the legal framework that goes around this, because of course it's not just the financial barriers that SMEs and other businesses are facing in transitioning to a business model, to a circular business model, but of course also the legal and accounting constraints that come around this. But I mean, really, we're seeing both from the European level with the European Green Deal and the Circular Economy Action Plan, and of course the movement and the announcements this week from BlackRock, that there is this huge momentum behind the investment in the circular economy, and very much so in the construction industry. I mean, you mentioned already some of the key examples here in the Netherlands with Circle, which is a building founded by ABN AMRO, one of the biggest banks here, that is entirely circular and has brought a huge amount of traction to ABN AMRO, and they're now investing in educating all of their clients on their circular potential. So really, again, in the construction sector, we're seeing a huge movement here in Amsterdam, but also globally.
Thank you, Hatty. Now, Michell, just one question to you before we actually wrap this session up. We've got so much great content in all of these speakers. We're literally at the end of time now. I'd like to just ask one question of you, Michell, which is, if those people in the audience want to do something right now, what's the one thing that you would say to them to take action when they go away from this session?
To think about all the materials that are in the loop and see really waste as a resource instead of as waste. So waste can be, or yeah, we call it resource right now. See it as a solution for a new application instead of see it as waste. Because there are a lot of people that can do something with the materials, and yeah, look further than just make the product and sell it, but look for a circular business model that you can maybe keep the product in the loop at the highest possible value, and find parties that are involved already in the business case instead of just making your own products.
Thank you. That's the end of this session now. So I would like to say, first of all, a very heartfelt thank you to all of our contributors. I would like to just remind you to keep all those questions that you have had during this session and take it over to the question and answer session, which you'll see underneath these panel sessions on the platform, please. Massive thank you to Hatty, to Gabby, to Michell, and to Laura from joining us here this morning and for their contributions. I'm sure many questions will still arise. And of course, please do not hesitate to get in touch. If you're in Glasgow, please get in touch with Glasgow Chamber of Commerce through our Circular Glasgow team. If you're wider than that, please get in touch with Laura and the Zero Waste Scotland team. And once again, please bring your questions over into the live question and answer session. And thank you very much for joining us here this morning.